Hey guys, morning, and thank you so much for coming out today. I'm Nikunj, and yeah, great to see you all here. And a big thank you to Creative Mornings as well for hosting this. Um, yeah, I'll get right into it.
You are memory. You understand? You are memory. The whole of your being is memory. You listen carefully, find out if it is true what the speaker is saying or it's a lie. You understand? Find out. You are memory. Without memory, you are nothing. Memory of your name, memory of your family, memory of mathematics, memory of going up that hill, memory of your friend, right? So you are memory. Memory is something dead, gone. Find out, sir. That is the great point. You understand? Find out what is truth. Memory is not truth. What is that flower? Look at it. You never ask when you are looking at that flower, what is it? How does it come? You have the beauty of it. Please learn something. Beauty is truth. You understand? Beauty is truth.
Hi. So that was a little excerpt from a talk by Jiddu Krishnamurti, and he firmly believes that there's nothing superior than memory, and I kind of tend to agree. I feel like memory, visual art, storytelling, music, they're all tied together. And I think in some ways that is the common thread that I will sort of hit upon through the course of this talk. And also, I'll use that. I'll use this talk as a way to unravel like the tapestry of work, I guess, that I've built, for the sake of thread-related metaphors, uh, through the lenses of visual art, design, music, and food. So speaking about memory, I go back to a particular one, which was like on my 16th birthday. Um, I remember my mother coming up to me. She was quite excited. She was like, "Oh, did you check under your pillow? We got you something." And I was like, "Wow, okay, cool, exciting." And I found this little package. It was like quite heavy, and I was like, "What's in this? Like, it seems pretty meaty." And then that's also like the time when you're in like 10th 11th grade, like board exam pressure and all that. What are you gonna do later? All that is like on your mind. So I unwrapped this present, and it turned out to be a textbook, which was a course in mathematics for IIT JEE. And of course, I was pretty disappointed. I was pretty mad, and uh, I was sulking, while also trying to study for my upcoming exams and boards. And that time, I was like very torn between sort of like in school. I also studied in a Jiddu Krishnamurti Foundation school, so like there was a lot of we had a lot of space around, and I think I used to explore a lot of that like natural beauty of the campus through sketching, through art, and so on. And so somewhere I was very torn. Like I was in love with visual art, I was in love with music, but at the same time there was all this pressure of like figuring out what to do next. So it was like a lot of like this teenage angst and so on, which I would kind of like. I wasn't somebody who would act out a lot, so I would just like put on my earphones, blast some music, and like get all my rage out through that. So through the course of that, I started discovering a lot of music that started impacting me. But through that music, I also started discovering a lot of art, like album art, poster art, things made to accompany music. And I think like one artist's work that really impacted me at that age was the work of Alex Gray and all the work he'd done for the band Tool. And they've done very unique things. Like if you see like the kind of bottom left images, that's like a CD cover that you look at through lenses, through inbuilt lenses, and then you can see the cover come to life in like 3 dimensions. And I just all these things impacted me like very deeply, and they kind of stayed like got embedded in my memory. And I thought like maybe I wanted to do something either related. I wanted to either be a musician or do something related to music in some way. Or uh, and around the same time, I also discovered the work of MC Escher, and my mind was absolutely blown. The works this man created without any computers, like completely by hand, and like the ingenuity of his mind and mathematics, it just blew my mind. And many and his work also stayed embedded in my mind. And many years later, this piece, the Mobius strip, was the reason why I decided to name my practice the Studio Mobius. Um but in any case, I when I was weighing out the options, I was like, oh, should I be a musician? It sounded like a really tough life. I don't think I'd make it much money. So I was like, okay, maybe like this design thing has something. I didn't know a lot about it, but eventually I got into design school and I studied animation film design at NID. But these are all the pictures from design school. Like, and the one thing you notice that's common between all of them is like guitar and music. So even in design school, I kind of like became the music guy. Uh, and I think at that point, when it came time for us to apply for internships, I think there was a little bit of pressure. Things were competitive. We were all applying for the same opportunities, and like all the studios that we all wanted to work at were hiring like one intern per year and things like that, because they were all like boutique and could only afford that. So I think that made me think of, okay, what is so uniquely me that maybe I could try and work towards and explore. And I think growing up, also like another way that music impacted me was when I was in boarding school. We didn't have a lot of like connection to the outside world. In a sense, we were in a bubble. So I used to read magazines, which were mostly like city magazines about Delhi, Mumbai, and so on. But all of them had event listings with like which band was performing at which venue and so on. And I was super envious of all the people who got to go to these things. And so I think that interaction was also seared in my mind, this like FOMO of always missing out on all of these events. So I was like, maybe one way I can be a part of them is to maybe be the person creating like the communication for these things. And so I was like, while I'm an animation guy, I can draw, I know a little bit about typography and so on, maybe I can make posters and flyers and things like that. um, so I started doing that. I did an internship at a music booking agency that required like artwork all the time. And the very nature of it was like to make artworks that would grab eyeballs and that would be memorable, and that would get more footfall for the gigs. And these were some images from that time. And I think like what it did was it kind of encouraged me to see all these works being created, them going out. And also part of my job during the weekends was to like go around pasting them in places like guerrilla style. So I'd get an auto guy and I'd pay him like extra, and I'm like, just stop here for a minute, let me go paste it quickly, and then we'll scoot to the next place. So just all of this, I was building my own kind of like bubble around me. But it was encouraging. Like um, later I continued doing these posters and flyers because the venues that these posters would end up at, or where the gigs would happen, they started asking, okay, who's creating all of these? Okay, we want some too. And I was like, okay, cool, I think I've got a like small business model going on here. Like I would charge like 1,500 2 grand like for a poster. And I'm like, yeah, that's enough for like pocket money, some beer money, etc. And I was like, I can make something from this. So yeah, I really thought like my entire business would just be making posters and flyers, and that really was my vision at that age. Uh, but slowly things started diversifying. While I was doing that, I kind of uh, got to know about an artist residency that was being held in Sri Lanka, and I didn't know what exactly it was. It was kind of vague. It just said media art residency, and it had some ties to music. So I applied for it. Incidentally, I was picked as one of five visual artists from across South Asia, and we all gathered in Colombo, Sri Lanka, to experience what this residency would be. So eventually, what it turned out to be was that this building that you see here, it's an abandoned cinema hall and hotel from the 80s, and it's been abandoned since then. I think it was burned down during the 84 riots in Colombo, and since then it was operating as like a blue film theater. So you can see like there's this wall of posters, which is all like, yeah, basically B film movies, posters. So we took over this venue over the span of a week, and at the end of it, basically we threw like a huge party. But the things we learned during this residency was to use projection, lighting, to use like webcams, sensors, things like that. Basically, it was an approach that a traditional design education didn't like teach you. It was to take your work and put it into space, put it into a setting, give it some context, and have people come and experience them outside of a screen, outside of a device. And I think that completely blew my mind and changed my perspective. And like this whole idea of your work just being in a rectangle, or even on paper, it blew that out of the water. And I was like, well, this idea that I had of building my whole business around like posters, flyers, that changed completely. And I was like, wow, the potential is endless. And another interesting thing that happened at this event was, because it was in Sri Lanka, it was like one of the few places in South Asia where like Indians, Pakistanis could collaborate. And I was in touch with a lot of Pakistani musicians on SoundCloud, because we were all geeks and we used to talk to each other. And a couple of them ended up at this residency as well. So it was a moment like for us to connect and try and talk about, yeah, like our collective shared sort of experiences, heritage, things that we were following across the border. um, and this residency was also being kind of mentored by these German mentors who had been doing this kind of media art stuff for a long time in Berlin. But they were observing us kind of interact, and that made them nostalgic. They're like, oh my god, you guys sound like us in the 90s when like the German scene was about to blow up, you know. And it's so amazing to see you guys like so passionate about this. And um, and around that time, I was also working on a graduation project, which was also a music video. I decided to step up my game. I was like, okay, flyers, posters are enough. Let's bring some movement into this. Let's bring a little bit of what I've been studying into this as well. And they found that idea interesting. And because of this emotional connection, them going down their memory lane, etc., they were like, you know what, we have an animation project, and we don't have an animator to help us with it. Would you be interested in coming down to our studio and helping us out? And I mean, that sounded like a dream. So I went and worked with Pathfinderai was the name of this studio. I went and worked with them in Berlin for a couple months to help them realize a music video. And the more interesting thing was they were a collective of like completely different kinds of creatives. There was like a type designer, a coder, a film director, a musician, etc., and they all coming together to create like this design collective studio kind of approach. And this was such an alien idea to me, because I think before this I interned in an animation studio as well, which was completely, everything was like hierarchical. And I think this inspired me to kind of go out on my own and I was super pumped to come back and finish my grad project. Uh, so through my internship and all this poster flyer thing, what happened is I met a lot of musicians that I could work with. I could call onto them and be like, "Are you working on something? Can I make a video for you, etc., etc." And one person who agreed was Sand Dunes, and we came together to create like a music video. But she didn't have any funds. We didn't know how to go about it, so we decided to crowdfund this music video, and it was all completely like animated with like pencil on paper. It was colored digitally later, but we used that as our pitch to kind of raise funds, and people came together and helped us out. And at that time, we reached like our entire goal in like 6 days. So that was again very encouraging, and it gave me this feedback like that people want this kind of work and there is scope for this. And it really, I think, encouraged me that this common theme of music that is arising, like it's working for me. So I think like at this point I started learning that like this, finding your community and people who share similar beliefs, similar tastes, etc. It's quite important, but it's also important to like not make it an echo chamber. Keep borrowing from things that are outside of these communities as well. So as a result of this campaign, we also created a lot of other little things like comic books, T-shirts, etc., to send to people, the people who contributed to a music video. And as a result of one of these comics going out, I got a call from somebody saying, "Hey, look, we have an interesting project. Would you like to come on board?" And this music video, by the way, had taken me about 6 months to finish. Like it was a mammoth effort, and it didn't even have any like sound or dialogue or anything. So I got this call, and they said we're doing like there's a project for a title sequence for a Mani Ratnam film. And I was like, what? Wait, what? Yeah, like I am so in. And they're like, but here's the catch: we have like 14 days to finish this. And I had never finished an entire project in that much time. So like I rallied the troops, brought some friends on board. We we came down to Bombay, kind of like just locked ourselves in a room for like 2 weeks and worked in shifts. Like when one of us was working, there were like one person, two people sleeping, and then they would wake up and start working. And we pulled in other folks as well, and we kind of made this video happen. Basically, we were just really dogged about it. We really just wanted to get it done because we were like, okay, this something like this doesn't like really come again. And we finished it. We finished the video. It turned out nice at that point in time. Now I can see like so many flaws, but for the time we put into it, it turned out quite well. And then like we never stopped to ask like how did we get this like opportunity, and turned out like it was because of this impossible timeline that everybody had like refused them, turned them down. And we just didn't think twice about it, and we just went for it. And that kind of became our introduction into like the industry, and people were like, oh, who are these kids who like managed to get this done? But anyway, uh, another lesson I learned through that was to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And like with some of these lessons that I learned, I decided I think it was just time to go out on my own. That's when I decided to start my own practice, label it, give it a name, and kind of get going. So, like, I think that time there was a vague idea where I wanted to take this practice, but I think like I created this chart later, but I created it so that everyone could see that music was always a big part of all the work that was happening. And whereas people get to see, like because it's visual, they get to see the animation illustration part of it, but music was always very much a part of this thing, and that really became a common thread running through everything. um, I think I want to show maybe a lot of work. I don't want to make this like a portfolio showcase. So, but I'll just say that through the course of starting my practice, I like had the chance to explore working with music in all kinds of like formats. So from as small as stickers, flyers, logos, to like music videos, to branding, like sound recording studios, branding record labels, to doing visuals for concerts, gigs, etc. All the way to also planning like palace facades and so on for festivals like magnetic fields. But after, like working on all these different kinds of scales, I still felt some weird emptiness, because I always remembered, like, my memory of myself was the guy with the guitar, not the guy taking a photo or making an artwork for the guy with the guitar. So it felt like I was always like support staff. And I was like, I need to like be more authentic to myself and bring back a little bit of that music and creativity into it. And sorry, I'm just going to, yeah, like this was music festival that we branded. But yeah, eventually I also started slowly on the down low, like putting my own music out and releasing it myself, along sometimes with also with some friends. But I used that as a way to also experiment with styles and so on that I didn't get to otherwise when working with clients. But I would always do it on the down low, because there was this imposter syndrome working with so many musicians, that they were the musicians and I was like the visual arts guy doing this on the side. Like, again, it became like a classic conundrum, like this is the hobby and that is the main thing. But I, like, over time I've changed that around. Then of course, like, soon lockdown hit, and I was like, I had started to question this thing of, okay, how can I be more authentic to myself as a creator, and bring back more of my music into this, more other forms of creativity, and really think about it as like a thought process. So I started educating myself through the lockdown, reading, going through a lot of interesting books. And I also started trying to understand, okay, what is like this, my business? It's been like so chaotic, and it's been so hard to understand, like try and put some sense of logic and understanding to it. All that was great, but really what I was aching to do was to create. And I think for a lot of us, like, lockdown was a time where we all did a lot of like cooking, like, because we had to do everything ourselves. So I realized that this was fueling a different passion as well, because cooking really is like so immersive, right? Like every sense is involved. And I found a new love. And just around that time, there came a project which gave me the opportunity to merge like food, music, visual art, along with it being for my first ever client, in a sense, who I interned with. So Krank was launching a new record label, and we decided to create like a campaign for them that all revolved around Indian flavors, because it all focused on sounds that came out of India, Japan, etc. Basically, the East, the global East. So we called this campaign "Flavors of the East," and all of them were they were like inspired by Indian flavors: Kala Khatta, Ganga Jamuna, Jal Jeera, Thandai, etc. There were a couple more. And this became interesting. I was like, okay, now I can bring a little bit of food into this as well. And similarly, to change that whole narrative of like not keeping my music a hobby, also making it a main act, I decided to put out an album as well, which also had a common theme, memento, which was like memories and, something in a place, set a certain place at a certain time. And I used that as a way to also engage my community. I collaborated with like type designer and designer Sanchit Savaria, who did my logo type, which also interestingly got an award. And also like people who I remember helping me out when I was young, like they would jam with me, be part of my creative process. I brought them back in as like an homage to my memories, to involve them in my process as well. And during this time, I also kind of took a step back. I wanted to also become a better animator. So instead of directing projects, I was helping other directors and like doing little bits and pieces in like big international projects. But trying to learn like how they operated, but just taking this step back, it helped me kind of like eventually crack other interesting projects where which I got to direct. But I think like taking a step back, working with somebody, helping them out, seeing how a bigger production runs, it gave me like some perspective that I brought to my own work later. And another learning that happened through that is that sometimes you need to take a step back in order to learn new things and keep moving forwards. But because I took this step back and my mind was free a little creatively because there were other people managing and directing these projects, it gave me even more time to do even more cooking. And as a result of this, I sort of ended up like befriending a chef Lakhan, who runs Mizu, and we start talking about all these common threads that ran through our work, like inspiration from music, cooking. Both of us were heavily inspired by like anime, and these conversations led to us kind of like casually going like, oh, let's do something together, let's make something together. And it was still locked down. They had just purchased like where Mizu is right now, like the space. So he invited me to come visit his kitchen. I had some conversations with him, made some sketches, and we decided to make a small uh, film together. It was just like pure expression. There was This was not a promo. It's not an ad. It was just something we made to for the sake of it, just to enjoy the process, and also trying to see, they bought this huge space. I'm like, how are you affording this? How are you gonna run this? Like all these questions were at the forefront of my mind, and I was trying to understand like how this works, a massive venture like a restaurant, and that too in a prime space like Bandra and so on. Uh, I think like that made me question, how do you basically as a creator, how do you bring expression when you're also providing a service or like trying to please a client? And chefs do just this, right? Like they work at the highest level of their craft, but they also bring a little bit of their touch into this. And I think the answer I came out with was that we do this by, creators create expression by creating a new memory or by stimulating an older one. Like how chefs play with your mind is by feeding you something that comforts you or something that challenges you, pushing you against a memory or an association you have with it. And I think this stands true for all kinds of creatives, like, and all kinds of storytelling. And I think like traditionally when you think of a story, you think of a book or you think of like a script or something like that, but really it's not that. It's a lot more abstract than that. I think it's just that moment where a new memory is made or an old memory is triggered. So I would maybe not use the word story, but use the word narrative. So I think like for all of us as creatives, it's important to have a point of view and a narrative. And a lot of us often wonder like how can we bring that in. So I think just remembering something as simple as this can bring a lot of your own expression into your work. So once I also realized that, I was like, oh my god, like yes, I love music, I love all of that, and I've been pursuing that all of like throughout my career. But understanding that actually made me step back from it, and I'm like, oh my god, like expression is so much larger than that. So these days, I'm also working on a lot of things that have started to go beyond music. Working with materials, working with apparel, collaborating with a furniture designer. In fact, even writing for a magazine, and various other pursuits. And I this now like all of these things happening over the years has brought me to believe that the future of creativity really is radical autonomy, like for all of us to do our things and support each other, and for us to come together to create a scene and raise the bar. So yeah, I think like one thing I would like to leave you with is like the future of creativity is radical autonomy. You should all celebrate your narratives and honor your memories and bring a little bit of that into everything you do. And I think like, yeah, in design school we are made to ask all these big lofty questions, but like we can't change the world, but we are responsible for what we put into it. So I think by putting a little bit of us into it, you know, we'll be able to make the world a more authentic place. Thank you again for having me. I'm Nikunj Patel, and along with being a designer, these are also some other things that I do on the side. And yeah, thank you.